Hello, we are back in the man cave of an acting teacher for one more video. I am wearing a different t-shirt today that has no significance at all. It's just an old t-shirt, so I thought I'd put it on. Today's video is about auditioning and bad auditioning and why auditions seem to sometimes go bad, right? I got a brilliant message from Jess, a friend of mine in the States, who regaled me with very funny stories about really bad auditions that she'd done and why they went wrong. Very entertaining, and suggested herself that you guys out there should tell your stories of your bad auditions on the comments below or in private messages to me that I will read out. So you can do that. That would be great, and I'd be very entertained by those. And I'll read them out if you want me to, or I'll try and address why they went wrong for you, because it doesn't matter if we make mistakes as long as we learn from those mistakes and move along, okay? So, let me talk about this briefly. I'm not going to go on too long here, right? Auditioning, for the most part, is about typecasting. Okay, now I know that's a dirty word in some people's minds, and it's sort of an insult in some ways to some people, but it's not. Okay, so in acting training, we call this archetype, all right? Your archetype is how people see you, right? So if you are a 16-year-old girl walking down the street, people will see you walk down the street and say, there's a 16-year-old girl. If you're wearing your school uniform, they'll say, there's a schoolgirl. If you are 78 years old and you have a little bit of a crook in your back and you're on a walking stick, and if they see you walking down the street, they'll say, oh look, there's an old man, right? There's an elderly lady, yeah? So this is type. So when people see me, they see middle-aged man or a man in his 40s, yeah? That's what they see, okay? So that's your type, and there's nothing wrong with that, because your type will change anyway as you go along and you get older. But your type is based on your gender and your age, okay? And it's also based on other physical attributes that you have, right? Such as your hair color, your eye color, your complexion, and your weight and your height and things like that. And that'll put you into a kind of a bracket of type, right? Now, I know that there are going to be some actors looking at this video saying, well, I have transformational talents. So do I, right? In fact, that's all I do as an actor. I don't even really like doing anything much other than transforming into character. I mean, I do work, obviously, because I have to eat. But I wish I was Daniel Day-Lewis and I could choose what roles I wanted to do and then transform myself into characters that are not my type. But unfortunately, that's not the way the business works, okay? So we do need to understand what our type is, to understand that type is not a dirty word or an insult in some way. It's just the way that most of the business works, okay? So if you get called in for an audition based on your type, the positive side of that is that you're more than halfway home. Already, a casting director somewhere has said, oh, look, that person there is a 16-year-old girl and has the hair color that we want and the eye color that we want. Let's bring that person in for an audition and hope that they can act and act well, right? And that's your job. Okay, so your job is to act well. Your job is to get yourself trained so that you're very, very good. And all you need to do then is apply your technique to the script that you are given. Okay, now I won't go into the technique, of course, in detail here because, I mean, I can do that with you. That's my job, is to teach that technique, and I can't do it on a video like this, right? But there are basic parts of your technique, and usually they're all that's required for TV commercial auditions or soap opera auditions. You need to know who you are, where you are, character that is, who your character is, where your character is, meaning you, your objective, what you want, okay, what your character's problem is, and how they're going about trying to resolve that problem. And now here I am talking about tools of a technique, okay? So for the most part, that's really all right? If it's a TV commercial, we don't see any other layers other than that. It's 30 seconds or a minute, and the audience sees the archetype. They see your type. And if you serve that type really well, there's no reason why you won't get the gig, okay? So why don't you get the gig if you do that, you know? And you go in and you do your audition, you do a great job, and you walk out. Why don't you get it? Usually it's got nothing to do with you or your audition or your acting, okay? So I might go for the role of, say, a police detective in his 40s, new police drama being made. Dave, come on in and we'll audition you for this role, all right? I go in, I apply my technique to the script I've given, right? I give my audition, I do it very well, it sounds like it's fallen out of my mouth, like it was never written down, and all of the right boxes have been ticked, technically speaking, okay? The scene is good, there's a lovely arc to it, where the character changes from the beginning to the end, etc., okay? What's going to happen after that is out of my hands. So the director will look at that and go, yeah, that was a really good screen test, but you know what, I want someone with darker hair and darker complexion, and I want someone who isn't quite as heavy. I want a skinny guy, a really skinny guy. Out of my hands. I don't know that. I can't prophesy that. I can't guess that. Or perhaps the female detective that has been cast, the actress who has been cast as the female detective that will be my partner in the show, right? Yeah, they're looking at her and going, oh yeah, so we've cast her. She has red hair and a kind of light complexion. Yeah, so does Dave. I don't think that'll work. I want to contrast that. So let's get an actor who has darker hair and darker complexion instead of the lighter hair and lighter complexion, so that we can contrast those two characters, so that then they're fitting them together, yeah? That's out of your hands as well. You can't control that stuff, right? So if you do your job well, you have done your job. That's all there is to it. And more than likely, you will start getting some gigs if you do that well and do your part well, all right? So self-tapes, right, usually the people who come to me with problems with self-taping are people who have issues with vanity, right, if I can be really blunt about it, right? So they do that, they apply their technique, they run it, it's good, and then they watch it and they go, oh, I don't like that little thing I did with my eyebrow there. Oh, I better do it again. All right, and then they do it again, and then they go back and they, oh, I did something different with my eyebrow that time. Oh, no, I think I'm going to have to do it again. So then they do it again. And next thing you know, they've done it 10, 12, 15 times, and then they're looking at them going, I don't know which one to send, right? And the fact is, the crazy fact is, the little twitch of the eyebrow in the first one, you're the only one who saw it. Okay? And if someone else did see it, they don't care. It hasn't spoiled the telling of the story. It hasn't spoiled the revealing of the character. Okay? All right. So you're going to go for things that have various different levels of complexity to them. TV commercials are quite simple because it is archetype. You only see the character for 30 seconds. You don't get to know the character all that well. Okay? But let's say you are cast as a schoolgirl, okay, just to pick an example out, all right? We see the archetype, girl in a school uniform, 16 years old, schoolgirl, right? Then we find out that underneath that, she's horrible. She's a real horrible person, and she's mean-spirited, and she's mean to people, and she hurts people, and is rude to her parents, and rude to her teachers, and everything else, right? That's the information about the character that the audience gets later on. They get that towards the end of the first episode of the 10-part series or whatever, okay? And then they see that that's the kind of character that we're dealing with, yeah? Now, more than likely, underneath that is another layer of meaning. So you've got archetype, you've got information, right? So the stuff we know about the individual under the archetype, and then underneath that is a girl who's probably been diagnosed with cancer or something like that. And she's deeply vulnerable and very scared. And that third layer is the opposite of the second layer. Okay, and the third layer, right, is actually fueling the second layer. The third layer is fueling that behavior where she's being mean and horrible. Yeah. Now that's when you're looking at a character that's well written. Okay, that is going to be in something like a TV drama, right? That's got a little more depth probably than a soap opera, although you do see these levels even in soap opera drama, okay? And certainly in complex feature film. Again, now I'm talking about technique, okay? And that archetype and antithesis stuff, that's really important to know, okay? And if you haven't trained in a technique that teaches that level of characterization complexity, you need to get that training. It's really going to be very important because you're going to struggle otherwise when you go for auditions for parts that have that kind of depth, because the director is going to be looking for that level of depth. The director is going to, in their head, if I can just do this quickly, the director goes, oh yeah, that girl just walked in the room, she's 16, she's the right height, shape, she's whatever it is in my head for this part. Then the actress plays out the scene, okay? So we've ticked the archetype box, we've ticked the type box. the actor plays out the scene, and they will either give us that second and third level in the scene that they've been given, or they won't. Okay, and if you don't, right, or you don't show or at least demonstrate to some extent that you have those chops, you're going to be in trouble when it comes to really complex stuff. Yeah. Okay, I hope that makes a little bit of sense, right? I know that that last part was quite kind of advanced and technical, right? And again, this is my job to teach that stuff. So if you do want an online one-to-one while we're in COVID-19 season, please let me know. I'd be very, very happy to help. And if you have any questions at all, just give me a shout too, okay? I'll leave it there for today, guys. Your bad audition is usually because you tried too hard. You tried to do something that wasn't necessary, right? You tried to fix a little thing. You tried to be better than other people, and you don't even know what they did because they weren't in the room at the same time. You can't try and be better than someone when you don't even know what they're doing, right? All right, guys. Chat to you soon. Enjoy this beautiful sunny day. Bye.